Resident Evil 0 is a game I kept going back to despite not liking it very much. I've played through its beginning section many times, but it never gripped me like the original trilogy. Yet, it has all the ingredients to make me love it. It has static camera angles, pre-painted backgrounds, 10 controls, and a huge emphasis in inventory management. If you asked me back then why I didn't enjoy my limited time with Zero, I wouldn't have had a clear answer. This game is simultaneously similar and yet very different from the other entries in the series that it is hard for me to pinpoint my exact issues with it. But now after playing it a little bit more and getting past the initial train section, I think I have my answers. So, this video isn't a full-fledged review, but a retrospective as to why Resident Evil 0 lost me. This video is a bit different to what I'm used to do on this channel, since I usually complete games at least once before criticizing them. However, I'll lean more into the flaws, so I guess we can start with what I love about this game. First off, Resident Evil 0 is a gorgeous game. It brings back the pre-painted backgrounds from the original trilogy and the GameCube remake which came out months before 0. And it shows. This game is beautiful to look at, and it might be the best looking one out of all the classics. It restores both the realistic and eerie tone that was lost in Code Veronica X, as that game was fully 3D rendered. I mostly like the environments, at least the ones I got to explore. The train section is not only aesthetically pretty, but it is also unique to the series for its tight corridors and vertical level design. And it serves as a great teaching lesson for the game's new innovative mechanics, which I will get into later. Umbrella's training facility is another area I thought was interesting. Visually, it reminds me of a mixture between the Spencer Mansion from Resident Evil 1 and the castle from Resident Evil 4. I found it riveting that we're exploring what is essentially the school of Umbrella Corps. They even have their own motto and everything. It's cool. Like my favorite locations in the franchise, the training facility is filled with locked doors, some that you have to unlock from the opposite side. It has many puzzles, many different paths for map traversal, and many instances that require backtracking, which are all great things in my book. Finally, my favorite aspect of Zero, as a fan of Resident Evil, is its tight inventory space. You constantly feel the pressure of not being able to carry the items you need, and it leads you to make conscious decisions in your resource management. While this might seem tedious, the game is fortunately built around this as you now gain control of two characters at once. You can switch between Rebecca and Billy to further strategize your survival, and that also means you can exchange items between both their inventories. This creates a lot of moments that make you think deeply as to what you want your characters to carry, which was a highlight of the game for me personally. And they go a step further by providing different attributes for both Rebecca and Billy. For example, Billy's a lot more vigorous and has a hold of the lighter, while Rebecca is much weaker but can mix herbs together. There was a clear attempt at reshaping the formula of an already known video game franchise, and I think they did a lot of things well. However, the flaws outweigh anything else the game could have had going for it in its beginning. One of my biggest complaints is the character AI. Your partner will often not even assist you when you're attacking, even though they're supposed to. And when each of the playable characters share their own health bar, it can quickly derail into chaotic moments as you're desperately trying to defend your partner that is too stupid to get shit done by themselves. And this problem worsens when both Billy and Rebecca are in caution. It is already difficult to manage the health of one character, and it is a pain in the ass to manage both. Especially as your partner would rather die than to make the slightest commitment to get away from danger. It's really fucking annoying. And yeah, what I'm trying to say is that this mechanic can feel more like a nuisance rather than an advantage, because you must constantly babysit one another depending on how low you are on resources and health, which leads to another problem that can be observed in the giant centipede boss, which we'll call restart bait. What it means is that the game has instances where you'll most likely have to reload your save for a situation you were not prepared for, nor did the game warn you about. For example, in the centipede boss, while not difficult on its own, does test on how well you've been conserving your resources. The issue lies when they separate Billy from Rebecca, meaning that whatever Rebecca was holding with her, Billy can't use. In my case, Rebecca was holding the grenade launcher, which cock-blocked me from dealing higher damage to the boss. And since the monster tanked all my ammo, I had to reload to my previous save. And if I hadn't saved my game right before this fight, it could have erased up to an hour of progress. This is something we've seen on the channel for Resident Evil, as Code Veronica had that same issue, but on a much larger scale. In Code Veronica, I tend to be more forgiving for these faults since the campaign is filled to the brim with resources and enemy avoidance is very doable. However, in a game like Zero, resources are not only further restricted, but enemies are much more harder to avoid. And the reason behind this isn't exclusively because of the co-op style system. By default, zombies are much harder to slip by since the frame of their hitbox extends way past their attack animation. So, the game tricks you into thinking you baited their grab, like you do in the GameCube remake, but that simply doesn't work anymore. And yeah, the other big complaint I have are the enemies. They are both extremely bland in their design and despicable to fight against. Outside of zombies, you mostly fight mutated animals, which are significantly less riveting compared to the bioweapons you'd fight in the older games. Hunters do return in this one, but where are the new enemies? Because I don't see anything that matches the uniqueness of the Lickers from Resident Evil 2, and the grotesqueness of the Brainsuckers from Resident Evil 3. Both fantastic looking enemies that are just as difficult as they are fun to fight. However, there is none of that in Resident Evil 0. Instead, we fight monkeys. Is this serious? Did they just run out of ideas or what? I did my research on what other enemies you encounter in this game for the sake of this video, and apparently you fight frogs that can kill you in one hit? Yeah, no thanks. I think I'm good with the rest of the experience left untouched. Oh, and how can I forget about the leeches? New enemies that are unique to this title. They appear far and few in between but are still incredibly annoying. It isn't a good idea to engage with them unless you have incendiary rounds or Molotovs on you. Other than that, you're better off running past them since it is far more important to hold on to the hookshot, am I right? Another issue with this game that I think everyone can agree with is the ambiguousness surrounding the hookshot. An item you use once in the train and then have to hold on to for whenever you'll need it next. And I'm not kidding when I say that I went on hours without having to use the damn thing. That means for most of my playthrough, I had Rebecca hold on to an item that takes up 2 out of 6 inventory slots. That is just absurd. I seriously do not know what the developers were thinking, and it doesn't help that they removed the item box. Now you can leave items from your inventory almost anywhere in the map. For one, it's great that your discarded items are marked on your map, but this change led to unwarranted backtracking. And again, I feel like the game would have benefited from having an item box since it would complement your character's tight inventory. Finally, I think the puzzles aren't nearly as strong as they were in previous games. Most of them can be summarized by getting Billy to do one thing, so that Rebecca can do said thing, rinse and repeat. It gets repetitive after the 5th puzzle. I miss the puzzles that make you think like the painting puzzle from Code Veronica, or their gear puzzle from Resident Evil 3. Those are the kinds of puzzles that I want to see more of. And that's about all I have to say for Resident Evil 0. It's a game I really wanted to enjoy and that on paper should have been the case. Unfortunately, due to the overall complication and tediousness of the game's core design, I can't bring myself to give this game another chance anytime soon. I know I have been harsh on this game, and I do realize that I would have probably liked it more if I sunk more time into it. However, I value my first impressions on these kinds of games, where the unknown is some of the best parts of a first playthrough. Going into a survival horror game for the first time should surprise you and bring out your curiosity in the best ways possible. But I don't feel that way with this game. I got frustrated about 5 too many times, and I felt like I had seen most of what this game had to offer by the halfway point. If you enjoyed this game, that's great. This isn't a personal attack to you. This is just how I feel. So, if you've enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing as it would help out the channel. Also, make sure to click notifications on so that you don't miss more content like this. And now, with that being said, see you guys later.